Thank you for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Israel says it has taken out half of Hamas's fighters, with terrorist leader Yahya Sinwar reportedly on the run. But the Jewish state could also be facing a war with Hezbollah. And despite the ongoing fighting, Christians are showing their support by taking tourist trips to Israel. Here at home, the battle over the border bill as Republicans and some Democrats oppose the measure. We're going to take a look at why they are against it. And a strong opening in theaters for the highly anticipated fourth season of the hit series, The Chosen. All those stories and more ahead today, right here on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Let's begin this half hour in the Middle East, where Israel says it has now taken out half of Hamas's fighters, but the Jewish state also faces the possibility of a war with Hezbollah, and the U.S. promising more strikes against Iran proxy groups. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is on the story from Jerusalem.
Iranian-backed militia continue to carry out attacks in the region, despite the U.S. launching dozens of strikes over the weekend in retaliation for the deaths of 3 U.S. service members. An attack near a U.S. base in Syria killed 6 members of a U.S.-allied Kurdish militia. The Pentagon said more strikes against Iran's proxies are coming.
This is the start of our response, and there will be additional actions taken to hold the IRGC and affiliated militias accountable for their attacks on U.S. and coalition forces.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Saudi's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman Monday. It's Blinken's 5th Mideast visit since the war in Gaza. He faces major challenges. Hamas and Israel are at odds over a potential truce, and Israel dismissed calls for a Palestinian state. The UN announced it's launched an independent review of UNRWA after reports that its workers took part in the October 7th massacre. The IDF says it's raided the Hamas headquarters in Khan Yunis and found training materials for the October 7th attacks. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told IDF soldiers Israel has defeated more than half of Hamas's forces in Gaza, including 18 of 24 brigades. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar is on the run.
Sinwar moves from hiding place to hiding place. He is unable to communicate with his surroundings, and in recent days, IDF fighters have found the materials in the places he has been recently. And thanks to them, we are improving our operations, deepening our grip on Hamas plans.
Gallant also warned that Israel is prepared to take action against Hezbollah on its northern border if diplomacy fails.
Hezbollah will not be able to threaten the residents of Israel through raids or through direct fire. I say here explicitly and unequivocally, if the political move does not succeed, we will not hesitate to use military force for the return of the residents safely to their homes.
Currently, about 80,000 Israelis have left their homes on Israel's northern border.
We all abandoned our homes, our businesses, everything. And that's it. The city is deserted. Scared people.
In case of war, hospitals in the north are preparing underground wards.
And Chris Mitchell joins us now for more. There's been talk about a possible war between Israel and Hezbollah. It's been going on for months. Is it actually now becoming more likely?
Yeah, Ephraim, it does seem like that. It seems like diplomacy right now is not succeeding. And the goal of that diplomacy by U.S. officials as well as others is to move Hezbollah north to beyond what's called the Litani River. That's about 12 miles from the Lebanese-Israeli border. The problem with that is that Hezbollah, since the Second Lebanon War in 2006, has been building their war machine within civilian areas all through southern Lebanon. So practically to move them is really very, very hard. If sometimes some people say that may be impossible right now. But also they want to take the Lebanese army to fill that vacuum by if Hezbollah does leave. But many say it's really Hezbollah that controls the Lebanese army, not the other way around. So the rhetoric is increasing. Time seems to be running out. And Ephraim, you realize that not only are 80,000 Israelis gone from northern Israel, but it's basically, I've heard estimates of 2% of Israel's land is currently just uninhabited right now for the most part. And someone in the north recently asked about a war on the northern border, and they said on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 15.
Now, you mentioned Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar in your report, and Israel's defense minister says he is on the run. Why is he so important?
Well, he's the head of Hamas in Gaza. He's fiercely devoted to destroying Israel and killing Jews. One of the masterminds of October 7th. He has tremendous symbolic value. In case Israel can kill or capture him, it would be a major blow to the remaining Hamas fighters. But he also controls the fate of the hostages, and it's likely he has many hostages near him as human shields. He's been in the negotiations for their release, but it sounds like right now, at least, that the IDF is getting very close to him. In the meantime, he's trying to survive, and many people believe he's lost control of Hamas fighters right now.
We're hearing reports that Israel has not actually made as much progress against Hamas as they need in order to reach their goals. What are you hearing there on the ground in Israel about the war against Hamas?
Well, Ephraim, I think it's much better than has been reported so far. And you have to realize that the IDF is fighting a war unlike any other in military history. They're fighting above the ground and they're fighting below the ground. And they're doing that while they're trying to avoid civilian deaths. Some military historians have already said that what the IDF is doing right now will be studied for years to come. So far, they've advanced. They've destroyed strongholds in northern Gaza, Khan Yunis, and they're on their way to Rafah. So a major part of the war might be over sooner than many people think.
Israeli forces are pushing ahead toward the city of Rafah. Why is this so significant? Rafah, excuse me. Why is this so significant?
Well, Rafah is significant because it's really the last major Hamas stronghold. They believe right now they've destroyed much of what's going on, much of Hamas infrastructure in Khan Yunis. So Rafah is going to be very sensitive, and there's two reasons. One, because many of the refugees have fled there, maybe over more than 1 million. And it appears that Hamas terrorists will use those refugees as human shields. And the other reason is because it's on the Egyptian border. And Egypt has really said it doesn't want any Palestinians flooding into Egypt. So it's going to represent one more challenge for the IDF as it goes to try to eliminate Hamas, which has been their stated goal since the very beginning of the war.
Let's turn now to UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. Will Israel allow it to keep operating in their areas after it's been discovered some of their workers cooperated with the October 7th terrorist attacks?
Well, there was a demonstration here in Jerusalem yesterday demanding that UNRWA leave. They were making the case that UNRWA is teaching children here in the city that all of Israel should be replaced from Palestine and that they should grow up to kill Jews. So far, that particular UNRWA facility hasn't been shut down, and we're going to see exactly how this goes. Yesterday there was also a hearing on Capitol Hill about what's going to happen with UNRWA, and we'll see what happens not only in Gaza but here in Jerusalem and many of these UNRWA schools and facilities all the way through here in Israel as well. And we have been reported for years how many of these children, you can hear them for yourself on camera, exactly how they have been trained to want to go back and destroy all of Israel. They're really living out that phrase, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be free. That's exactly what they're being taught in these UNRWA facilities.
What can we expect from you and your team on Jerusalem Dateline today?
Well, there's an Israeli offensive to combat anti-Semitism. Since October 7th, anti-Semitism has exploded around the world, even in the U.S., in places like the U.K., and they're trying to combat that. We also have a story on the truthers that's saying October 7th never happened. We have a report on how the Houthis are affecting global trade in the Red Sea, and also a story on how CBN Israel is helping Israelis in a variety of ways, sometimes trauma counseling, sometimes physical help. But Israelis are suffering right now, and CBN Israel is doing what they can to help many Israelis in their time of need.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris, from Jerusalem. As always, we appreciate your insights, encourage you to stay safe, and we continue to pray for you and the entire team there. I want to let you at home know that you can see more from the Middle East and our Bureau team tonight on the CBN News Channel. You can watch Jerusalem Dateline. It begins at 8 Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, or you can find it on YouTube. While tourism in Israel remains slow due to the war, that hasn't stopped Christians from visiting to support the Jewish state and its people. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has that story for us.
Scott Phillips leads Passages, a Christian organization that connects students with Israel to deepen their faith and build bridges.
It's so important to be in Israel right now because Christians are called for such a time as this to stand with Israel and the Jewish community worldwide.
On this visit, Phillips felt compelled to speak out about the alarming rise in U.S. anti-Semitism.
During the Holocaust, not enough Christians spoke up, and so it's important that we build a movement of young Christians in the United States of America who are rooted in their biblical faith, are leading with courage at home, and are standing with Israel and the Jewish people.
The delegation met with Yami and Naomi Weiser, whose son, Staff Sergeant Rory Weiser, was killed on October 7th while saving 12 of his fellow soldiers on the Erez Crossing base. They also visited 2 Gaza border communities and the site of the Nova Music Festival, ravaged by Hamas on October 7th.
When we went down south to the communities of Netiv Asura and Kfar Aza, and also the site of the Nova Music Festival, and to see all of the burned cars, there's hardly any words to put to it. The folks in our group really are just eager to be able to go back and tell the story of what they've seen, to do whatever they can in their communities, their spheres of influence all over the United States, to be able to tell the story and stand with Israel.
Passages donated $250,000 each to the communities of Netiv HaAsara and Kfar Aza to provide psychological counseling and support young people affected by the horrors of that day.
Our group, those who have come over here to Israel with us during this time, are taking a message back that this actually happened. October 7th, the horrible tragedies of that day actually did happen, and that they saw it with their own eyes. They're going to be able to take back a message of support for Israel and support for the Jewish community back at home.
Phillips believes a spiritual blindness is causing people to deny the tragic events.
Obviously, we've seen the destruction. We've heard the stories of these communities and these people who have lost friends and family. And so we have to stand for the truth. We have to call what is good, good, and what is evil, evil. And there's a real distinction now, and we have to stand firm on that.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up here at home, the Senate's bipartisan compromise border bill isn't going to pass the House, and it looks like it's going to fail in the Senate as well. We're going to bring you what's behind the controversy over this bill when we come back.
Download the CBN News app. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Watch CBN News Channel Live. CBN News, because truth matters. Get the CBN News app today.
A cold reception on Capitol Hill for the bipartisan Senate border bill that would overhaul the country's immigration system. The $118 billion deal also has foreign aid to Israel, Gaza, and Ukraine tied to it. But there's almost no chance it will pass the House and probably won't make it through the Senate. White House correspondent Abigail Robertson explains why.
Hopes of a bipartisan border bill on Capitol Hill are quickly fading as GOP Senate leadership signals they likely don't have the votes to pass the compromise immigration plan.
Senate Republicans have insisted, not just for months, but for years, that this urgent crisis demanded action.
Just hours later, McConnell reportedly urged Republican senators to vote no on the bill's first procedural vote set for Wednesday. This after being in rare agreement with President Biden that immediate solutions are needed at the border.
We don't have enough agents, we don't have enough folks, we don't have enough judges, we don't have enough folks there. We need help.
The bill, which was endorsed by a union of Border Patrol workers, aims to discourage migrants from illegally crossing the southern border. It includes $20 billion for immigration enforcement, the hiring of thousands of officers, and increased screenings for fentanyl and other drugs. The measure also includes $60 billion for Ukraine, $14 billion for Israel, and $10 billion in humanitarian aid for people in Gaza, the West Bank, and Ukraine. House Speaker Mike Johnson claims the Senate bill encourages more illegal crossings and is dead on arrival in the House.
It would not resolve any of the problems, not reform in any meaningful way the broken asylum system, the broken parole process, and all the things that have created this catastrophe.
Former President Trump, who's made the border a central issue of his campaign, is urging Republicans not to pass the bill.
This is a Democrat trap. It's a trap for Republicans that would be so stupid, so foolish to sign a bill like this. This bill can't be signed.
Senator James Lankford, the lead GOP negotiator on the bill, says it's time to get resources in place to control the border.
The president has something he's trying to accomplish. He's trying to get elected back to be the president of the United States. I've got something I'm trying to accomplish. It's securing the nation and our borders right now. So he's got his purposes right now. I've got mine.
Democratic leaders are also urging swift compromise.
We cannot let politics get in the way of passing this legislation. The senators have to drown out the noise of politics and politicians who tell them not to vote for this bill for political purposes. We all know it's the right thing to do.
The battle over the border leaves urgent funding for Ukraine and Israel up in the air. Speaker Johnson says the House will vote on a standalone bill for Israel, which the White House says Biden will veto as it pushes for a broader bill. Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Still ahead, why so many Christians are changing churches. A new study takes a look at why believers move from one church to another. We're going to have that story for you. It's coming up right after this. For Christians, it is not uncommon to switch churches at some point. Now, new research shows it's happening more often. A recent Lifeway survey finds 60% make a change because they moved, while 40% offer a variety of other reasons. Jenna Browder reports on what churches can learn from this study.
This new study from Lifeway Research shows most churchgoers in the United States don't often switch churches, but sometimes it's necessary, whether it's moving to a new neighborhood or city or some other reason.
I think after churches opened back up, we, of course, went back to church, and I just began to feel like I needed something more.
Heather and Norm Edwards began to feel a disconnect attending a big church in the nation's capital.
I saw this at the church where we were on staff, and I see it at other larger churches where you literally can walk in, walk past everybody, and there's good, hey, welcome home, good morning. There's a lot of that, and it's kind and it's nice and the intentions are good, but you literally can go to your seat, not get to talk to anybody, go through the very professional, very well buttoned up service, both worship and message. And then there's a prayer and you walk out and you file out and it's say, thanks for coming. And you really haven't talked to anybody and you're just going straight home and that's it.
After COVID, they wanted more community and something smaller. They also wanted sermons with deeper spiritual meaning and not as topical.
We do surveys on the church and the culture with the desire to inform church leaders of what's happening and so that they can make better informed ministry decisions.
The Lifeway study shows 40% of these church switchers are like Heather and Norm, who change for reasons other than moving locations. Of this group, researchers found 3 major takeaways. Either something changed about the church they didn't like, the church didn't fulfill their needs, or respondents became disenchanted with the pastor or the church.
And when we dug into the reasons behind that disenchantment, what we find is some of the accusations we've probably heard in other settings that the church was judgmental, the church was hypocritical, sometimes pointing at the pastor not being a good preacher.
Executive Director Scott McConnell says the data reveals an opportunity for churches to think about their approach and be more outward focused.
So I've been serving as a pastor altogether now about 7 years, and am really grateful for the call to serve God in this way.
Pastor Alex Young leads Crossroads Presbyterian in Northern Virginia. When asked what he sees, Young says it usually comes down to 3 categories. Drift, Christians leaving churches that no longer follow the Bible. Disinterest, people losing their faith and leaving. Or disagreement, Christians leaving one church for another. He sees this as the most common.
All Christians, I think, hold those same core beliefs in common. But on these secondary issues, there's disagreement.
Those issues being things like baptism, church government, interpretation of certain scriptures, and others.
I think church is about community. It's about doing this life together. So we're encouraging each other, holding each other accountable. We're there for each other. And we didn't really have that in that bigger setting.
Heather and Norm now attend a smaller church in Northern Virginia they say is a great fit.
And it certainly is not as polished or professional, but that's not really what matters to us. It's the authenticity in the community.
And that may be the bottom line, finding the right church for you, where you can best walk with Him and continue growing in your faith. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Coming up, good news for fans of The Chosen as the long-awaited fourth season has a big opening in theaters this weekend. We're going to have that story for you when we come back.
Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
A strong opening in theaters this weekend for the highly anticipated fourth season of The Chosen. The first 3 episodes of the new season finished in the second spot at the box office behind the movie Argylle. The faith-based show about Jesus and his disciples pulled in just under $6 million for the weekend, with a total take of well over $7 million, including its Thursday night premiere. The Chosen is the largest crowd-funded TV project in history. Time now for your Tuesday Tweetable. This is a note of encouragement. We hope you'll post, tag, tweet, and share with those in your circles of influence. Love is a choice. Forgiveness is a choice. Obedience is a choice. Choose them. They're all available to you, and God stands ready to help you make that decision. With that word, make this a terrific Tuesday and have yourself a wonderful rest of the week. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online, cbnnews.com. Take a moment. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye. God bless.